Howdy, hello, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Preferred Podcast. I'm your host, director, producer, writer, composer, editor, actor, PA, CEO, janitor, manager, president, vice president, HR, employee of the month, and secretary, Sajay Preferred.
And I'm the heart of Alabama and the co-host of this prestigious podcast, Amber Valentine.
The Preferred We're back again for the 15th time.
And we're ready to slay.
So let's start our slaying with the topic of slay.
Yes, slay.
It's often looked down upon in the drag community, but sometimes it helps you out in the long run of a drag career. Today's topic of slay is virtual drag.
Oh, interesting.
So virtual drag as a whole is, it says, it's drag that is done virtually. So types of virtual drag, includes YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, just doing drag in a non-club manner or a non-venue manner, I don't want to say, what's the word I'm looking for? Traditional way of drag, but a non-traditional way of drag, because drag is usually done in front of a crowd. And of course, virtual drag is done in front of a crowd, but it's a virtual crowd. It's not really the same thing.
Drag Race.
Is a huge example of virtual drag. And when it comes down to it, club versus virtual drag, there's a lot of differences. You know, you do have an audience both ways. One is virtual, one is in person. I personally feel like getting a in-person performance intake on drag is very useful, because you get to learn how to deal with people, and you get to learn how to take your drag into different communities and different types and identifications of people. And I feel like it's a way to get not only critique on your drag, but also just your drag out there. I feel like you can promote yourself a lot online, like as a virtual entertainer. However, I definitely feel like it's a little bit hard, because there's, which we're going to get into, but there's a lot of like sticky stereotypes and names that come with virtual drag and virtual entertainers. I don't necessarily believe that all of those stereotypes or all of those things that are said are true. Like, I feel like drag is drag, entertainment is entertainment. No matter how you're doing it, it really doesn't matter. And nowadays, like, virtual drag is becoming super popular with TikTok. TikTok is becoming a huge platform for drag, and a lot of it, kind of as you mentioned, comes from Drag Race. A lot of, people are getting inspired by Drag Race and wanting to randomly start doing drag. We call these Drag Race Drag Race babies. I almost said Drag Race queens. Drag Race babies. And that's queens who start doing drag because of Drag Race.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of an in-person performer also. Just being able to have like that in-person opportunity, I feel like is better as a whole.
I've always said that if I can't perform on a stage, I don't want to be doing drag. And a lot of the drag that I do nowadays is virtual, but that's for a different reason. I feel like I don't do virtual drag just because I'm like anxious of getting on the stage, or I have no interest of I do drag because I want to perform.
We do virtual
stuff for promotion, for a constant want to do drag, because I constantly want to be doing drag. And of course we both live in Alabama, where there's not even shows throughout the week. The only drag shows we have are Fridays, Saturdays, if you're lucky, Sundays, and Wednesdays at Owls now. But there's no opportunity to be doing drag on a weekly basis, especially when you're not on cast anywhere. So therefore, that was my outlet to do drag constantly. And with that, I eventually got my own shows at Dothan Dance Club, and that is another way that my virtual drag kind of portrayed into what I really like doing, which is performing and having my own shows to do that once a month. So I'm definitely not on the bandwagon of virtual drag. Like, when it comes to me doing it, I of course don't mind virtual drag. I think it's entertaining, as it should be. That's what drag is for. However, I have competed in a few virtual drag situations, such as online competitions, which are a huge thing within the drag virtual drag community. My co-host for Drag the Competition, Amber Xerxes, actually started with doing online competitions in a virtual scene, and that's how she started doing drag, and she went from there. And that's a very common thing. Like, I feel like it's actually a very smart thing to start with virtual online competitions because it gives you that critique and it also gives you that engagement without having to follow with embarrassment if it happens, like, you know, in public embarrassment or embarrassment in the community that you're currently active in. So I definitely feel like online competitions is a helpful form of virtual drag that I feel like a lot of up and coming queens should pursue in just to get a taste of competitions, especially if you're wanting to do pageants or, you know, drag race, which, as you mentioned, is a form of a virtual drag. And I feel like that's a lot of, you know, a lot of people mistaken that. And a lot of people, like when season 15 was going on and you had a lot of the TikTok queens and a lot of people weren't here for it, I was like, but you realize you're just watching like a huge TikTok of drag, right? Like plan it out, look it down, dissect it. You think of like the comedy challenges or the skits, that's literally like the meme audios or whatever on TikTok. The dance challenge, that's literally a dance trend on TikTok. The memoir that we saw in this episode of Drag Race, that's people telling their story on TikTok. Like, it's, you know, it's very identical. It's very similar. I don't realize what the whole hype about Drag Race, but hit over virtual drag is when it's like, you know, I don't get it. And definitely like the behind the scenes, you most of the time, keyword most, I would say up until season 15, those who are casted on Drag Race have a club booking, you know, usually like they have been in the club scenes, they have a cast member position, they, you know, they've been doing drag for a minute, so they know what they're doing and they know how to work a room and how to perform. Season 15 we saw Sugar and Spice,
who had only been on the stage what, like 3 times?
No, I don't even think they had. I think they've only been on stage once.
Was it only once? Yeah. I knew it wasn't very many.
Yeah.
See, and I feel like that's where the issue lies.
Yeah.
Is, okay, cast these TikTok queens, but make sure there's people that have been on a stage and realize that this is actually a competition.
Yeah.
And not claim that you genuinely thought you were going to win when the whole world knew you weren't going to win.
I definitely think it's more of like how you treat it, like on the person. But like another good example is Scaredy Cat on UK season 1. She had never performed before. She was always a virtual queen, and when she got on there, she didn't really show that. She, of course, didn't know how to perform. That was very obvious. But when it came to personality, she was very open. She was very open to critique. She was very out there and outspoken. And that's something we don't really get. Like Sugar and Spice, they were, of course, obnoxious, but they weren't very like open to doing new things or open to being silly on camera and so on and so forth. Another good example is Aiden Zane. Aiden Zane was a virtual queen, barely performed. And a lot of that was kind of similar to me, like in the sense of didn't really have the opportunities to perform. And so that kind of kept them like bedridden or bedroom ridden. And when it came to their season, they kind of like opened up and like, you know, they weren't afraid to be silly. And I don't know, I feel like that was the difference with Sugar and Spice. And that was what a lot of people fed into when they saw the, I guess you would say, stereotypical bedroom queen. They saw all the negatives in Sugar and Spice and immediately just pedal to the metal. You know what I mean? Because it's true when you get those who don't know how to perform and they have this like big ego because they have a big following, but they can't really bring it to the ball because they don't have those connections or that sense of, it just doesn't look good,
especially when performing is a big part of drag. Yeah. Like, I mean,
especially when you get on Drag Race and you start to travel the world, you can't just do a video. Like,
I would say, because them girls in Vegas do Las Vegas Live, they're not just going out there telling their story. Yeah, they're out there moving it.
Yeah, but with that, there's a lot of like untruthfulness to virtual drag and so on and so forth, and a lot of that comes with they're lazy, they don't know what they're doing, and yeah, obviously not all of that is true because not everyone is the same. However, there is a bunch of truthfulness to it, like we see on Drag Race with Sugar and Spice. They don't really bring it to the ball because they don't have those connections, and as mentioned. But there's also truthfulness to it's just performing. You just got to look at it as it's just performance. Whether you do it on a virtual base or whether you do it in front of millions of people or 5 people in a club, like, it's still performing. It's the same as like Spotify artists versus radio artists who are traveling the world. It's, you can still get the same amount of streams versus the same amount of albums sold. It's a different form of doing it. It's a different way. It's a different expression. And I feel like those who have done it the other way for such a long time, of course, they're going to have an opinion about it. Like, it's going against what they've known for most of their life. And I feel like when you have those like negative comments on virtual drag, it always comes from older queens. Always.
Or Drag Race, or just drag fans that don't even do drag. Yeah. And understand drag.
And I mean, super emphasis on that. People who don't do drag always speaking negative about those who are doing drag. And it's like, girl, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Or how much effort it takes to be able to just do it.
But when we break it down, what are your overall thoughts of virtual drag? Are you here for it? Are you not here for it?
I'm here for it if it works for you. I like whatever you can do to help your drag and whatever works for you, because virtual drag works for quite a few queens. Others it doesn't. But if it works for you, do it. Yeah. And I'm more of a in-person drag performer.
I definitely agree. I'm like, if I can't be on, I've said 1,000 times, if I can't be on stage, I don't want to be doing drag. And even when it's funny because to be announced, but the most recent, I just filmed the most recent, The Preferred Few, or the upcoming The Preferred Few. And the special guest I had also does virtual drag. It's not it's the same sense as me. It's not really their number one. They do other bookings and club venues, but they have a big platform on virtual drag, and we had a whole conversation about how we don't enjoy doing it. Like, of course we do it because we enjoy the outcome, but the actual doing it's no fun at all. The part that we don't really care for the most is the editing of it all, the putting it together, and like the being in drag for the filming is, fun. Like when you and I do our preferred choices and we, just honestly just let loose and be crazy. It's us enjoying the being in drag part, and then we realize, oh wait, we're on film. We're filming all this. And yeah, it gets annoying because you get into drag for like an hour's worth. You spend like 2 hours for an hour's worth of work, if even that. And then you take it all off.
Just take it all back off.
And yeah, you do the same with shows, but it's a little different because you can have like such a longer scene or night or day when it comes to doing a show. Because yeah, the show might only last an hour, but you can get drinks, you can go out with friends, you can, so on and so forth.
Well, and not that that's all drag's about, but you get paid for your work.
Yeah. And I mean, like, also you can get paid virtually through doing virtual drag, such as TikTok or YouTube or even making music. But it's just, I don't know. I don't really see it for myself. Those who do it, and even those who use it as like, a platform to help with their in-person bookings or their in-person drag or their in-person career as a performer, it definitely is helpful. I mean, even in the sense of, I not only have gotten a show through creating my virtual content, but also I've used my virtual content to push other things, like to show that I do perform and that I am a performer. And I recently put together a whole, which will be discussed later, but I put together a whole video to portray that and to show that hey, I'm accepting bookings. You can see me at a stage near you. It's not only on your screen. And yeah, that's an unfortunate part, because that was another topic on the mouths of, I would say, older entertainers when Drag Race got popular was, it's taking away these clubbing opportunities. And I don't really agree with that, because if anything, I feel like it's putting more opportunities into the club community, I guess you would say. However, if you really think about it with YouTube, if Trixie Mattel were to do a YouTube video, someone could argue, I could just see her on my TV screen and not go see her at the club 10 minutes down the road. It's the same thing. You can make an argument both ways. You know what I mean? If anything, I would say, oh my God, I love Trixie in that video. Oh my God, she's 10 minutes down the road. Let me go see her. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like if you're using it in that mindset, you're using it incorrectly. You're not using it as a tool. You're using it as a negative side of drag. And that's where a lot of people get virtual drag mistaken. And I hate the term look queen or internet queen, because I often will get called with that because of the YouTube and so on and so forth, but I'm not that. I definitely do not do that. I don't like getting in a drag just to take a photo.
I mean,
not me.
Really, the lines are starting to become blurred, because, evidently, technically, we're all virtual.
We all should be.
We really are, because even though we perform more in person, we're posting.
But that's what I'm saying. We should be posting.
Yeah. So, technically, the majority of us are already virtual queens. Well, see, we just perform more in person.
To kind of go, to bounce off of what you were saying, those you should be. You should be a virtual, because that's how you promote yourself.
That's how it is these days.
Yeah, and if someone mentions, hey, I have seen a lot of Amber Valentine, you should book her. They're talking to a bartender at their local bar or whatever. And obviously Amber's not with this person, so this person can't be I just don't know who you're talking about. I don't believe you. Well, if they look you up on social media and see how you look or how you perform, then they're going to get the idea. But if you don't have those things, and it's funny you said that, because a lot of these older queens who like to drag down virtual drag, they don't have social media. So it's girl, you have no resume to go. Oh, I said that weird. You have no resume to go to. You have no resume for people to look at when your name is being mentioned. That's where virtual drag to me is a tool to help you with your drag career. And I feel like those who are missing out on it or tearing it down are really not using it to the best of their ability. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. Is it's a big tool that could be used, and a lot of people just want to on it, and that's their fault.
And it's not easy. It's very time consuming.
It very much so is. I literally, not to spoil it, or not to, whatever, but literally getting into filming this, I was I don't want to film this at all. And that's not no tea, no shade. We're not even in drag for this, but it's just the part of it's hard work. Drag in general is hard work. Yeah, you going on stage and throwing that wig on that you've had for 20 years and that outfit that your best friend sewed for you 5 years ago, and the boots that you've worn down to shreds, and putting yourself on the ground is hard work too. But girl, so is editing. So is filming a podcast episode after you've worked an entire weekend and have done drag mode. It is exhausting. Drag is exhausting, girl. Get over it. It's just as much work put in, I promise you. And we're doing both of it at the same time. So it's not you're prepping for a pageant, I'm prepping for my shows this weekend and for a bunch of looks that I have coming up. And it's that's just drag. If you if you got a taste of it, you would see, girl, it's just as much as prepping for a pageant. It's just as much as stretching for that split that you're about to do on stage. Like it's not easy.
It's rough, girl. It's rough. And if all you're gonna do is complain about it, just don't do it.
Literally,
because it's not gonna get any easier.
And like, you know, we jokingly complain, but a lot of it is just because, like, I mean, this is our 15th episode. We have every right to complain, like, right. You know.
And drag hurts. My body hurts real bad in drag. As mentioned earlier, Drag Race is also a huge form of virtual drag.
With its skits, performances, and overall gags, it's something that always keeps us on our toes at home.
Which brings us to our segment of...
Rate These Queens! This week we're down to just one form of Drag Race, and it's getting closer and closer.
And with yet another great episode, it's time to take our view to a review.
So Morphine just went home last episode.
Yeah. It's about time. It was her time to go.
I think it was her time to go, but I am so sad to see her go. And as Zafira says, it seems to be very boring without Morphine, or as Mo called her. I thought that was very interesting. I was like, Mo stunning? It's Mo stunning? No, anyways. Zafira is not affected at all by being in the bottom two. I feel like, it just might be me, but I feel like I was more affected by Zafira being in the bottom two than Zafira was.
Yeah.
Because she was, like, not having it at all. Plain Jane just got her 4th win.
Slay.
It is a very big slay. And she now joins the 4-win club with Zafira. And Q is very salty, of course. We should be used to this. Tally marks start, though, on who has the highest score for the win. They're getting so close to the crown, and they are ready. And something that they point out that I thought was very interesting is it's 2-2, 4-4 wins. And if you, like, break it down even more, out of those, when they do the tally marks, one of them has a bottom plate, like a lip sync placement, with it being Q in the 2 zone and Zafira in the 4 zone. That's super interesting.
Oh, that's right, because Nymphia hasn't been in the bottom yet either.
And neither is Plain Jane when the tally marks happen. So yeah, we're at top 4 though.
Top 4, we're almost there.
So tally marks, like I said, have been in place. Zafira kind of mentions it. I don't really know if the tally marks matter, because I don't know if statistics matter at all in this game anymore. But people are shaking, and as Zafira says, shaking in their boots while she's shaking in her kitten heels.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. We get back into the workroom after they have de-dragged the next day, and we're on to the mini challenge, which is lip syncing underwater, as RuPaul calls a kiddie pool karaoke.
I'm so weak.
Zafira is hilarious. Her booby connection story was so funny,
and she's got the correct size.
She does. She doesn't have her Fisher Price titties anymore. Plain is hilarious as well. Her shaking her little Russian white booty. Was so funny to me.
Out of drag.
Yeah. Whenever it comes down to the actual kiddie pool karaoke, I thought it was hilarious. As RuPaul states, I guess not everyone knows the lyrics to some of her songs.
Oh,
because that was very seen. I was a little confused. Through her stunts and taking her wig off, we see Zafira win the mini challenge. So many wins for Zafira. And the book covers, RuPaul starts off by announcing the Maxi Challenge with the book covers from the very beginning of the season. They start to come back with writing a memoir to their very own books for the Maxi Challenge. They had to do covers, a name for the book, and an interview with Matt Rogers to promote their book. So this is kind of a huge challenge. I remember they kind of did something similar to this on season 3 with, I think, top 5. But this is a very interesting challenge, in my opinion, for top 4. I don't know if it's a very fitting challenge. I mean, I guess it is, because you're kind of getting to know more and in depth about who you might see as the next America's Next Drag Superstar. So I don't know. It was very interesting. Nymphia, we see, though, is very upset because earlier she says she wants anything but a comedical / writing challenge. And of course, this is a writing challenge. It's literally writing a book.
She manifested it.
So I could definitely see why she would be a little bit thrown off by this. Plain Jane wants to be funny so bad for her book, which is, I mean, duh, it's Plain Jane. But this is a challenge where you kind of do have to break the barrier of being more open and more vulnerable. And I feel like that was immediately like a red flag for Plain Jane, because she's not that.
Yeah, like, she's at all. Not.
Saphira announces that she's getting a little spiritual in her book, which I thought was interesting because my mama always taught me, do not bring up religion or politics, which, you know, spiritual is definitely a little bit different from religion, but I feel like in the side of Saphira is going, I don't know if spiritual is, you know, I don't know. We don't really get much of these books, to be honest. We just kind of get a few chapters and stories. But when she mentioned that, I was like, oh, okay. All right. A drag queen getting spiritual. Nymphia announces that her book is going to be farting.
At least it's not bananas.
At least it's not bananas, but I'm honestly kind of tired of the farting.
Yeah, it just hasn't been done as much as bananas, at least.
Yeah.
But I'm also tired of it.
I don't think we're the only ones that's kind of like seeing this as like a ew, because Saphira even says, Nymphia, you in danger, girl. She kind of sees this as like not really going in the right direction, and I don't know. We shall see. When it comes to making the covers, they actually get kind of helped out by RuPaul. RuPaul is kind of their modeling agent today, which
I love that Ru.
I do too. And she was very, very hands-on, and she was helping them with different poses. She was taking her knowledge of modeling and those that she's seen in her past and her career and applying that to the top 4.
Weird that all of a sudden she's hands-on with the show.
Yeah. I mean, there have been a few episodes like season 15, actually last season, when it was the Daytona Wins. Mm-hmm. She was there on set, hands-on. So, I mean, I feel like it's actually become more popular in the most recent seasons. I feel like in the later seasons, she just kind of would have left it to someone else. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I am kind of here for this, to be honest. But when they go to talk about their covers and their ideas, all of them are pretty straightforward, and they get pretty open and helpful notes from RuPaul, which I think is a great opportunity. Yeah. And it really plays out for them. Starting out with Nymphia, her outfit was incredible. I loved this outfit so much. We found out her book title is Breaking Wind, The Art of Letting Go. We see where the fart jokes come in hand with that. No bananas, though. As you mentioned, no bananas.
And no yellow.
Finally, no yellow. Well, there was a little bit of yellow, but not that much. Next up to shoot their cover, we had Q. I did not like this outfit at all.
No.
She looked old. Her book cover was called Alphabet Soup, Savor Every Bite. No. She was literally standing in alphabet soup. Yeah. It was a no for me. I was kind of gagged because she really couldn't pose. And I was like, I thought you were a look queen.
Right.
I thought you would be able to pose. And I mean, the outfit obviously does not help either, because it was a little too flowy to like really do a good pose in. But yeah, it wasn't really serving for me.
She needed a waist.
She did. And I think that's what did not help her pose, because it was hard for her to accentuate certain body parts with her poses because she had no waist. Mm-hmm. The only thing that really came good from this was, you can't handle this Amy.
Yeah, that was I was looking for it.
Next up to shoot their cover was Saphira. Oh my god, she looks so good. This hair was so incredibly good. Slewfoot embracing all of me. I thought this was a hilarious title, and so did RuPaul. She laughed forever. The vibe between RuPaul and Saphira is just immaculate. Mm-hmm. As Saphira says, it feels as if they've been friends forever, and it definitely shows that, because they just look so close and they connect so well. And I feel like that's a good thing. A lot of people, and I feel like even me in the past, would take that as like, oh, a shoe-in for the winner. But it just feels so right here. You know, it feels like a deep connection. It feels like, really what I think it is Saphira is like that old school type of drag. And she's just so open, loving, and caring, that it doesn't really read as that like shady, bitter drag. And it's very welcoming and warming. And I think that's the difference that we haven't seen on Drag Race.
Well, and that's the drag that, I mean, RuPaul,
and I think that's why she connects with her so well. Lastly, Plain Jane enters to film her shoot her cover. She looks so dainty. She does very dainty. I was like, okay. Her cover name is Plane Crash, How I Walked Away from Disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes perfect sense for her because she definitely does serve plane crash. I was a little confused by just the one shoe. And RuPaul was too. Ru was not having it at all. She was like, can we at least put the shoe on for like the ending? Like, can we have the other shoe, please? Mother was definitely getting her together, as Plain Jane says. She says, Mother is getting me all the way together in this moment. And I agreed. And I felt like it was definitely needed.
That's great for a show, but not for Drag Race.
Promotion time comes up as they go to film the podcast with Matt Rogers and promote their book. Plain is the first one to do so, and she looks so incredibly good. They start to talk about her book, and they start to get in about how she is becoming a little bit more vulnerable, and it's still funny. Like, you can tell she really hasn't opened up those gates fully. She's not really interested in being fully vulnerable, and a lot of the stories was about her being shady with her other drag friends, and even, girl, you look like a clown. Like, that's really all it was. Plain, she was being funny serious, but still not fully serious. Something that I thought was hilarious was Plain is rooting for Amanda, which is good to see. We love to hear it. Saphira comes up to film her part, and she looks, of course, so good. This neon is serving on her. I was obsessed. She was being very serious and vulnerable, which is what the point of the challenge was. So she nailed it, essentially. She did very good. I felt like she was very open. She knew what to say. She was very fluent. She didn't have any mess ups. She was good. She was so good. And, we shouldn't be gagged. This is a pageant queen. This is someone who is known for hosting shows. She has that speaking ability. She can hold a conversation, and she can speak about her life, and she's okay with doing so. Q walks in, and she still looks bad. She looks so old. I don't know what's going on with Q this episode, but it's giving mother. It's giving mother, which is funny because that's mainly what she's talking about. She does become very open and very, very vulnerable, and most of her stories are sad and moves me a lot, to be honest, especially when she talks about her and her mom going through financial issues. Immediately it clicked. I felt like it was very noticeable that there was a moment where it like immediately clicked that she had to promote her book, and she was like, oh, let me do that. And that was very obvious to me, and I immediately took note of that, because I was like, girl, you should have taken, which obviously she wasn't there to our knowledge, but should have definitely taken notes from Saphira of being prepared and being fluent with her ideas, because I felt like that's where Q struggled. She forgot what to do, which is like a huge, no in the challenge of promoting your book.
Right, which was the challenge.
Yeah, literally. Lastly, we had Nymphia. Her hair, when we see the actual cover, it was so incredibly good. Her book is about dates, though, and dog poop. No. Something that I found very moving about Nymphia, her story in her memoir, was her fantasy of drag and how it helps her with her confidence. And she kind of goes on about how it's something she puts on to not only help with her feeling better about herself, but also just to live the fantasy that she doesn't get to live out of drag. And that's to some extent something that I relate to a lot with. It did make me very curious about her vulnerability, because we saw a little bit of it, and I was like, okay, I kind of want to know what's underneath more. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of want to know more to the story. And I feel like that's a huge part of this challenge, is you want to buy the book, you want to know more, you want to, you want to know so much more that you purchase the book. And she definitely nailed it in that sense, but I don't know if in the challenge wise, that's a good thing because she wasn't as vulnerable. She didn't go the extra mile with, like, say, Saphira, to go ahead and put everything out there so that there is no questions left, you know? So it's very like two sides to the spectrum with her in this challenge, and I don't really know how I sat with it, but she was very fluent. She definitely had moments where, with like Plain Jane, she was being a little too silly and it took away from it for me. But I don't know. After they filmed their segment with Matt Rogers for the podcast, we get back to the workroom to get ready for the runway.
Play.
Q is feeling sickening, Bo claims, says Plain. She's feeling very confident. Plain is getting a little worried because she was not vulnerable. She was a little too silly. Saphira claims to be strong all the time, all the way through the whole entire competition, which we know of because she has 4 big wins. But she even kind of claims that the time she was in the moment wasn't the moment. The time she was in the bottom really wasn't a weakness for her. It was kind of just her getting through the moment. And I definitely, I think that's a good idea. Not to let it get to you, not to hold back, because that's gonna damage you even further in the competition. The queens then talk about first impressions, which I thought were very interesting and funny. Fisher Price, now the world. Yeah. Plain's rattling bones start to happen, and her oatmeal brows are pointed out, which I thought were hilarious. And Nymphia gets shaded, not cute, by Saphira, which I thought was hilarious. Getting to the actual runway, with the runway being Fandigo. First up, we had Q. Let's get down to rating these queens. I love the hair and the corset, but I hated the skirt. I thought the colors were really cute. I don't know, the skirt was just a little too out for me. As far as the actual challenge to the cover was not cute. Sitting in alphabet soup was not it for me. During the challenge, she was very boring. Like I said, the moment where she kind of clicked into it, I felt was very obvious and noticeable. For me, Q was definitely the weakest of this challenge with a 3.
Oh, wow. Okay. During the challenge, I had an issue with what she was wearing. The undergarments should go under the outfit.
Yeah.
Other than that, once she finally clicked into her story, her story was strong. I was living for it. It was definitely a moment of weakness that she needed, and I was okay with seeing. On the runway, I was living for it. I personally love the ballerina look and the concept that she went with that. And the colors looked so good on her skin and with her personality. So altogether, I give her an 8.
Wow.
I was really impressed with her.
Next up, we have Saphira on the runway. This hair was amazing. The reveal was so cute. The colors were incredible. I thought overall the runway look was just overall, it was so good. It was so incredibly good. As far as the actual challenge, she was so sophisticated and open, very, very, very vulnerable, and very professional. I thought she knew what she was doing. She was very fluent in the way she spoke. She did the best, from the cover to the podcast, the actual challenge part. She was amazing. So for me, Saphira was the best of the week with a solid score of 10.
For the challenge for Saphira, she was very sincere, very professional. That's one thing that I really noticed is how professional she was. She's very, like you said, just very open and very vulnerable and willing to be able to give up those details about her life. On the runway, it was given very cultured. I was living for the hair. The hair was everything. So I give her a solid 10.
It's so hard because she's always good. And I always go in, like, there have been moments where I don't like what she's produced, and a perfect example was last week. But it was just so incredibly good. Next up, we have Nymphia. I was not a fan of this at all. As Michelle later mentions, I am so tired of the Marie Antoinette looks. I hated the hair. The color of the hair did not go with the outfit at all. I hated the flame crotch. I love the blue of it. I hated the orange, patterned with it. As far as the actual challenge, she did have her highs and lows, in my opinion. She was very good in the cover art. She was not very good in the podcast, in my opinion, just because she did leave me wanting more and leave me with so many more questions that obviously were not answered. And I feel like she wasn't as vulnerable as she should have been and could have been. But through and through, her cover honestly is what pushed her so far in this challenge. So my final ranking for her is 8.
Why was she standing?
Yeah.
That kind of took me for a spin. The poop story, especially starting out with it, was definitely a no-go. Mm-hmm. Definitely not needed. But I feel like after she made that one little joke, she finally clicked. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think this is the first time I've ever seen Nymphia serious. And not playing like she normally does. She did a little bit, but I was okay with that little bit because of what she normally does. Mm. I actually wanted more of Nymphia. And I was genuinely living for it. I disagree on the, I wish she gave more because if you want to know more, you gotta read the book, girl. And she's making me want to read the book because I want to know more.
But in this situation, like where the challenge is to be vulnerable, I don't know. And it's also like hard because from the podcast, I don't know if she conveyed all of what she said into the book. Because it seems like that the book has a lot to do with the dates and the mishaps that's happened in her life, but I don't know if it has to do with the confidence that, and I don't know. Maybe I just, yeah. I thought there was a little bit too silly and dog poop and dating for the vulnerability to show.
Getting to her runway, I thoroughly enjoyed it because she did it in her own way. I love the contrast between the color of the wig and the color of the outfit. I was not necessarily living for the fire crotch part. I feel like that could have just been left out. All in all, I really loved Nymphia, so I give her a 10.
Wow.
The poop story almost knocked it down for me, but...
The poop story did knock it down for me. Lastly on the runway, we had Plain Jane. This was Goddess. The hair, the titties, oh my god. She looked so incredibly good. She was honestly giving me Olivia Newton-John for some reason. I don't know why, but it was serving.
I see that.
In the challenge, she was so funny, so comedical, and I feel like that was her issue. Plain is obviously known for being funny, for being more on the campier and silly side, and this was to be a very serious and vulnerable challenge into which she lacked in. Mm-hmm. However, everything else she was strong in. She was strong in the looks, she was strong in the covers, she was strong in portraying a funny and interesting story. So for me, Plain was a 9.
Okay. During the challenge, I feel like Plain was trying too hard to be funny. Mm-hmm. Some of it was a little funny. It just wasn't in the right setting to be funny. I feel like she should have opened up a little bit more because I wanted to dig deeper into Plain, but Plain still just has this wall, mm-hmm. this I'm a bad, I'm not gonna have these feelings kind of thing, and I feel like at this point she needs to get out of that. Was she wearing her entrance look? It almost looked like, but I think what she wore was a dress, a leopard print dress. Because at first I was like, is that her entrance look? For the runway,
I think it was the entrance hair.
I think the hair was.
I think it was.
And she was wearing her entrance look was a leopard print catsuit. Mm-hmm. Or leotard, yeah. And then this was a dress. Mm-hmm. Her runway, as she said, Goddess with 3Ds. Mm-hmm. It was everything. I was living for it. I love the hair that she picked with it, and just the way that the gown shined properly. That kind of really saved her, so I give her an 8.
On a side note, besides the runway, Michelle looked so good this episode. Mm-hmm. Michelle looked so incredibly good.
She's looking better and better as the episodes
and with the age, she just ages like cheddar. When it comes to the actual challenge outcome, we see that Nymphia takes the win this episode, which I thought was interesting. She got her 3rd win. Mm-hmm. When it comes to our actual ratings, Nymphia was in 2nd place with 18. Saphira was actually in 1st with 20. In my opinion, I genuinely thought that Saphira was going to win this.
We both thought she was going to win it.
Even to literally right when we were waiting on the commercial for the episode to come back on, I was like, Saphira's about to get her 5th win, which means that's Drag Race history. You know what I mean? That's insane. And I thought it was going to happen fully, but it did not happen.
It didn't.
Yeah. The bottom two we see is Plain and Q, which does make sense in our scores because they were the lowest two, with Plain coming in at 17 and Q being at 11. Mm-hmm. They lip sync to Better Be a Good Time by Tina Turner, and Plain was serving this lip sync with her titties. She was definitely getting titty choreography. Tittyography. It's literally in just the movements that she bounced in, with the rhythm and the music. It was so good. Q was boring.
Yeah, Q's always been boring.
Plain, we know that Plain can pull out stunts and whatnot, but this was a perfect example that you don't have to be a stunt queen to be a good entertainer. Mm-hmm. Like you can literally just walk around and do hand movements and be so entertaining, mm-hmm. you know. And Q didn't do anything.
No.
Plain stays, thankfully, and Q sachets away, which we kind of all saw coming. Mm-hmm. We find out that we are now 2 weeks away from the finale.
That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that we have been very curious about because going into this episode, we were like, oh, it's the top 4, and it's not a finale coming up. Mm-hmm. So it was very interesting to see how the timeline was going to play out, and also not to, spoil some things, but we have already mentioned it in the sense of timeline for the podcast. We needed to know about that, and it was very in the air. But we now know that it is officially 2 weeks from the finale. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we find out that the next episode we have a lip sync Lollapalooza, but it's with all of the returning queens who have been eliminated. This is going to be so gaggy, so interesting.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and we had mentioned, some spoilers that we had seen about there being a Lollapalooza or a lip sync SmackDown of some sort. And genuinely, it caught me so off guard when I found out that it was the returning queens just only versing them against themselves for the $50,000. It makes a lot of sense because in the past, since season 14, when they had the first ever Lollapalooza, that has always been like their most highest viewed episodes. So it made sense they tried to squeeze one in before the season ended. And this was a perfect time to do so because having the idea of bringing all the eliminated queens back, one, to get them another chance on the screen before the season ends, but also to show off their performance skills that we might not have fully seen, such as like Mirage. I was literally thinking Mirage with a song that she knows the lyrics to, or Dawn with a song that's not Megan Thee Stallion versus Morphine. And, it's very interesting. Or one for
Amanda where, she actually wins.
Yeah.
Because, she did the previous one, but...
And it's also nice to see that the winner will receive $50,000, which I thought was very nice. And this is, I really hope that it just doesn't go to Morphine because she's a good entertainer. That would be kind of disappointing.
I just hope it doesn't go to
Maya or Morphine. Like, for real. Don't forget to catch the new season of RuPaul's Drag Race on MTV every Friday.
And of course, come to the channel every Wednesday to listen to us rate these queens for a few more episodes.
Only a few. New. Spring break is a wrap here at the Pervert channel, but all the projects are still coming along. So let's get into the new things coming to the channel very, very soon. Starting off with the most recent video, our preferred Songs of Drag Race with Amber Valentine. This is a pretty funny video, actually. When editing this, when getting into like the beginning processes of editing, I thought this video was going to be meh. You just kind of... We filmed this, a month ago?
Something like that.
And because I've, as mentioned in the last episode, I've just been very in detailed when it comes to my scheduling and trying to be on top of the whole scheduling and the whole filming and editing process. But we filmed this about a month ago, so I honestly kind of forgot all of the bits of this video, and whenever I started editing, I was like, wow, there's a lot of quirky things in here. And then we finally saw the end product, because even I had this scheduled for like a week because it was done that early. And I woke up this morning and it was, yes, I woke up at 2 p.m. and it was already posted, and I was like, oh, slay. And so we watched it, and it was very quirky. So make sure to go watch it. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to get a brand new video every single Sunday. And speaking of that, next week, or this coming up week, is the next episode of The Preferred Few, episode 10, with a very campy and special guest that I cannot wait for y'all to meet.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, I thought about spoiling it for this podcast and to go ahead and tell you who the guest is, but no, I will let you wait and figure out. It's someone who, if you know our history, it's going to be a very interesting episode. And I as mentioned, you know what? No. I was going to say...
No, don't do it.
You know what? No.
Let it be a surprise.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it.
Especially because this is the biggest person you've had.
It's the biggest person that I've had on the channel as far as popularity-wise. And as far as drag career-wise, but also it's someone special for the special 10th episode of The Preferred Few.
Yeah.
Kind of the thing that got me started with the YouTube. So it's very nice to see how it's progressed, especially from episode 1 with you and the red backdrop and my iPhone. Even with filming with this next guest, they were gagged that I was filming on an actual camera. But speaking of that, there are quite a few more episodes to come. I mean, obviously, to come out of The Preferred Few. I actually have 2 already planned and scheduled besides the one that's already filmed. So yeah, super exciting guests to come on The Preferred Few. And I can already tell you trying to think. There's one for May, and I want to say there's 2 for May actually.
Oh, okay.
If I'm not mistaken, because May I think is the 4 weeks. Or that might be June. It's June. June there are 2 The Preferred Fews. May there is only 1. Yeah. So super exciting guest to meet very, very soon. Wow. And if you would like to be on The Preferred Few, I actually have interest forms up for those who are interested in being on The Preferred Few. All you have to do is check all of my socials, including my website. There is a huge segment on The Preferred Few, and it literally starts with want to be on The Preferred Few. Fill out this interest form right here. So yeah, and if you're not a drag entertainer and you want to see a drag entertainer on The Preferred Few, make sure to click the other link, because there's a link for that as well, of who you would like to see on The Preferred Few. Yeah. And speaking of The Preferred Few, those who have been on The Preferred Few usually travel on down to Dothan to do the Preferred Show, which is kind of like a in-person, I guess you would say, representation of the YouTube series The Preferred Few. And the very next The Preferred Show is coming to Dothan Dance Club on April 13th at 11 p.m. It is called Quirky Queens, with cast members being Gina, all the way from Birmingham, Alabama. And then we also have Florian Kennedy, who is the current reigning Miss Labor of Love, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. We also have our local entertainers, Amber Xerxes, who is my host or co-host for the Drag the Competition, as well as Shimmery, who I've never worked with, and I'm super excited to work with because they've kind of been running and handling the Dothan shows while I'm not there, because I only do it once a month because I live in Birmingham.
Same.
Speaking of Drag the Competition is happening Friday the 12th with my co-host Amber Xerxes, as mentioned, and we've mentioned her a lot on this channel, this episode in particular. But yeah, you can come on down if you would like to compete and drag the competition. It's a super, super easy competition. All you have to do is bring 2 numbers. You compete. If you win, you get to be on my YouTube channel, The Preferred Few, as well as the very next The Preferred Show. You get a paid booking. That is, once again, I will repeat that, paid cash money in your hands booking for being on The Preferred Show if you win drag the competition.
And we know y'all got bills to pay.
Yeah. And literally all you have to do is show up and perform. And if you are the best out of your competitors, you win.
Fine.
And lastly, to wrap up the newer news, I am now accepting bookings for the rest of May and the beginning of April, or I guess any of April. May, I mean. The end of May,
End of April,
beginning of May. I actually have a brand new page on my website where you can find all of the information to book me, and a little quirky video of all of the exciting performances that I've been a part of in the most recent couple of months. And they're put together to show you what I can do on stage. Yeah. So if you want to see a big girl twirl, such as myself, you can contact me on any of my socials at The Only Preferred, or you can email me, theonlypreferred@gmail.com, and just let me know. I'm a pretty simple person to work with. I have very simple needs, and yeah, I like to serve up a good old time. So if you would like to book me, I'm accepting bookings. Once again, just reach out.
with all of those exciting new things to come, it's time to get into your exciting new questions.
Click the link in both of our bios to ask your questions today.
Yeah. So, Miss Sage Preferred, your question reads, do you like cooking?
No.
I know you don't.
Not only do I not like it, I'm very, very, very bad at it. I think I mainly hate cooking because of the work you have to put it. It's a lot of patience and a lot of directions. Mm-hmm. And I'm not very good at reading directions. I'm not very good at reading in general, but
we can tell.
Let alone reading directions of food I have to make. And also, I wouldn't trust me if I was your cook, because I don't read directions. This is not a joke at all. When I cook pizza, and you can be a witness to this. When I cook pizza, I set the oven to 420 degrees. Why? Because it's the best number ever. And secondly, I put in the oven before the preheat has finished, and I don't set a timer. My timer is by smell method. I know it's done when I can smell it. That's the truth. That's how I cook pizzas. Stupid. That's literally the truth. And it's not even, I'm not good at it, and I don't like doing it. So yeah, no, I just don't like cooking.
I love cooking so much.
And I think that's why, me and my partner my boyfriend, we work out so perfectly because he loves to cook and I hate it. So I always feel bad because I'm like, well, like I can just go get us food. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's easy. It's a 1-2 step. And he's like, no, I'd rather cook. And I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I want to cook. And I'm like, okay.
I'm the same way.
That works for me. I don't want to cook. Who would just want to cook? Like,
I would say, I do the same thing to you. I'd be like, I want to cook something. You're like, no, let's just get something. I'm like, I'm going to get spaghetti because I want to cook.
I'd rather just, and it's so weird because I don't like fast food. Like, it's not like I'm constantly wanting fast food because I don't enjoy fast food. Half the time I get it, I don't. Like, we had Arby's before filming this.
And my sandwich is still sitting right there.
It was not a very good experience. And I knew going into it that it was not a good experience. But I had just gotten off work and it was right by my job. And I didn't feel like cooking. So, and also to put it out there, just another side story. My version of cooking is making a sandwich. And my version of making a sandwich is putting a slice of cheese
between two pieces of bread. That's it.
And a lot of that is because, I don't really eat meat. I'm more of like a vegetarian, so like that's all I eat is bread and cheese usually.
But you don't put no mayo. Yeah, you don't put nothing on it.
When it comes to cooking though, I will say one thing that would, if I was into cooking, would make me an amazing cook is I'm such a fan of spices and like spicing things up. And I feel like that would convey so well with cooking because, like, I'm a lemon pepper. I love lemon pepper.
That's literally the only seasoning you have, and the only reason why you have the 2 other seasonings is probably because Peter probably wrong because you ain't got no seasonings but lemon pepper.
Yeah, lemon pepper. But I mean, like, no more than that. Like paprika, I love putting paprika and stuff. And paprika. It's paprika. Anyway, another one is garlic. Anything with garlic salt, oregano. I'm not a fan of like leafy textures, but oregano on certain occasions, usually with mac and cheese, goes really, really well. I don't know. I feel like if I was good at cooking, that would be a skill that it would be very helpful because not a lot of people spice things up. Anyways, your cooking.
My cooking is great.
No, it's not. Your question for you is: would you rather be taller or short?
Taller.
Why?
Honestly, I'd stay the height that I'm at. I don't want to be super tall, and I don't want to be super short. I don't know. I guess it's like a natural feeling. I don't necessarily want to be that person that as soon as you walk up to you automatically feel dominated by me. Mm. But also, I don't want to be short enough to have to deal with the other side of it myself.
Like the bullying?
Well, I mean, when I walk up to somebody that's like 6'7", I'm like,
what?
It's
I'm funny not gonna you mess said with that you. Though, because I really feel like I feel like maybe it's just me and I'm not very tall, but I feel like it's vice versa in the sense of like taunting or bullying. I feel like a lot of taller people get bullied nowadays than shorter people. Mm-hmm. Like, it's, you tall freak, or what are you going to say about a short person? Shorty.
My mom's only 4'11" and a half, so
but it might just be me.
I know a few names.
I feel like shortness is like a cute characteristic. Like, I feel like if anything, it just makes you like cutesy and like.
See, but I don't know. I feel like if I was super short, like if I was my mom at 5 or 4'11" and a half, like I'd feel scared of tall people.
But see, I kind of am scared of tall people.
Right. That's why I wouldn't want to be a super tall person, because I don't want to feel people. I don't want people to feel like I'm like dominating.
You wouldn't want to be short.
But I wouldn't want to be short because I wouldn't want to be the one walking up and being dominated.
I'd rather be short.
I don't know. I'd rather be in the middle, average height.
I mean, you are. I was going to say, so that's kind of stupid.
And to be short, you got to have like extra alterations on certain clothing because they don't make them in your. Right. Exactly. Like, that's what I was going to say, but I hadn't gotten there yet until you cut me on.
But also, it's easier if you're shorter, because if you're taller, you can't really add fabric to pants, but you can take the fabric away.
True, but why would I want to do either or? Add on or
because if you have to, then it's not a choice.
Well, I don't have to, so it's not a choice.
You get on my read the thing.
Don't forget to click the link in both of our bios.
And ask as many questions as you can think of.
So go ask today. Ask.
With us being all talked out, it's time to end the episode. Make sure to follow all of my socials at The Only Preferred for brand new videos, shows, and looks coming to the Instagram, the Facebook, and the TikToks very, very soon.
While you're following her, follow me on all my socials at Amber_V_Valentine for new looks, new videos, and new things to come.
Comment who your favorite was in this episode of RuPaul's Drag Race.
And follow for more episodes of the Preferred Podcast every Wednesday on Spotify and YouTube.
It's been nice talking.
And we'll talk to you later.
As always, stay preferred.
And full of love.